Hi everyone, Andrew here, and just a very quick edit to the video you're about to watch. When we recorded this video on Rafa's foot injury and all the educational content around it, we were assuming he was about to pull out of the Wimbledon semi-final as a result of his foot injury. Turns out that was indeed wrong. He has pulled out and it is due to an abdominal injury. We got that really wrong. We made an assumption that it was related in some way to his ongoing foot injury. However, the content that you're about to watch about his foot injury is absolutely still relevant, but I certainly get the prediction wrong at the end. And just to be clear, it is his abdominal injury that is causing him to pull out. And thank you for those that commented on YouTube and brought that to my attention before I woke up and the press had released that it was his abdominal injury. So slight little edit to the following video. Enjoy.
Okay, hello everyone. It's Andrew here from Melbourne, Australia. It is dark outside, and in less than 24 hours from now, our very own Nick Kyrgios, love him or hate him, is going to be playing Rafael Nadal. And I know lots of you have been emailing us asking for some advice and some opinion and what on earth is wrong with Rafa's foot. And I thought, there's no better opportunity to talk about his injury. So today I'm going to explain what his injury is with his foot, how it has been caused, how long he has had it for, what you can do if you think that you might have something similar, hopefully not. And then lastly, my prediction of what's going to happen in just over 24 hours from now with the Rafa versus Kyrgios match. For those of you who don't know, my name is Andrew Wynd. I am a foot and ankle physiotherapist here in Australia. I'm the founder of Freestyle Feet. I'm here in my clinic where I consult from tonight, and I thought I would explain to you what all the fuss is about with this navicular bone here and what is happening. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. We are passionate about helping you fix your own feet, and hence we will do anything we can to help you, educate you and explain to you what you can do yourself around fixing foot and ankle pain, because that's really something that we don't want really anyone on this planet to have to suffer. Now, I have prepared a couple of slides, so I'm going to share them with you. I promise this won't be too technical. I'll keep it really simple. There's only 5 or 6 and I'll get through them fairly quickly for you. Here we are. So as you know, this is proudly presented from Freestyle Feet, and really what we want to try and do, our mission is to solve foot pain. And of course, we can only do that through education and really good up-to-date scientific strategies. And that's what tonight is all about. So really interestingly, Rafa's foot injury that has affected his left foot, as we can see here, has been an issue for him for some time. It's made the press just at the French Open, I guess, more recently. And I think a lot of people have thought that this is a fairly new injury because it's been global sort of headlines. However, this left foot issue has been there for some time for him. And in fact, 2004, from the research, and as you know, I'm a big sports fan and I love tennis. I play tennis, so I've been following Rafa throughout his career. And he had an injury to his left foot back in 2004, and he needed almost 12 months off, and he missed a lot of big tournaments as a result of it. So this is really not a new injury. In fact, it's quite an old injury. He's been dealing with this for 18, nearly 20 years from now. And I think that's a little surprising, it certainly was to me, because I only really found out about the name, it got given a name fairly recently, and it is Mueller Weiss syndrome. So there it is there, Mueller Weiss syndrome. It is quite rare. It doesn't, we'll go through a few stats in a minute. It doesn't affect that many people. Here we have what is a normal X-ray on the left of the screen here. I'm just highlighting it now for you. This is the navicular bone. This is a key bone in the functioning of the foot. So here we have our ankle, here we have our toes. The navicular bone is this large C-shaped bone here. And this is considered normal on the left here on this X-ray. This person does have a little bit of pronation here, so that might suggest something a little bit interesting on the right, but for all intents and purposes, those navicular bones are normal. Here is Mueller Weiss syndrome, and what we can see on this X-ray, and I know it is a little cloudy, is that we have a progressive malformation or osteonecrosis of this navicular bone. And you can see some sclerotic and arthritic changes here. This bone is deteriorating and crumbling over here. We're causing all sorts of issues over here on the lateral aspect. So this is sort of the middle and the outside of the foot now. And you can see all sorts of associated deformities happening further down through the toes. We have an MRI image over here on the right. In the T1 image, you can quite clearly see the navicular is largely black compared to all the other bones in white here. And then on the T2 or fat suppressed image, where the fat on the MRI scan is suppressed, then we can quite clearly see the navicular stand out with an issue here as it is white. So that's really some radiology that shows what is actually going on here. And I've got a few others here as well of progressions of Mueller Weiss syndrome. On the left-hand screen here, we can really see that there is deterioration across multiple joints. And this is what happens. This is a progressive disease. So it starts off fairly minor, but it gradually progresses. And you can see a complete obliteration of the joints around here. And this bone here, the navicular, is really characteristically described with this disease as a comma. So just like the comma shape in handwriting, it looks exactly like a comma and it's squashed at the side. You can more clearly see it here and this is courtesy of Ahmed, that did a systematic published review on this disease some years back. Here is the characteristic comma-shaped navicular bone here compared to a more normal navicular here, even though this is a flexible flat foot. So what happens with this disease is once that bone deteriorates, the arch starts to collapse. It starts to drop. And the difference between this particular syndrome and the one on the right is that this is a flexible flat foot deformity, so it can be corrected, whereas and we don't see the change in the navicular, whereas this bone here is slowly dying and deteriorating and crumbling, and that's collapsing the arch in a slightly different fashion. So if you are watching this and you have fallen arches, certainly do not panic. Seek professional medical advice. That's always our advice, and get an opinion from a podiatrist, a physiotherapist like myself who's interested, or an osteopath, or someone who has a special interest in feet, even your GP or an orthopedic surgeon, to get an opinion on, is your arch due to muscular weakness or another injury, as opposed to this Mueller Weiss syndrome. Okay. So who does this really affect? Well, interestingly, more females than males in a 6-to-1 ratio. The average age is around mid-40s. So in the available literature, it's been described in as young as 13 right out to 70, with the average age in the mid-40s. Interestingly, Rafa, of course, was diagnosed at a fairly young age, around about I don't want to get his age wrong, but I believe it was around about 19. So that is a fairly young age. Now, how does it happen? Well, we don't really know, and this is the interesting thing. We know that the arch collapses, but we don't know whether it is the cause of the problem or is that the effect of the problem. The research doesn't really tell us, and because this is fairly rare, we haven't got enough sample data to be able to track them, to be able to follow them, to see and even predict them, get them before this happens. So we can see that on this, as described by this image here, that's a foot really rolling in. We call that pronation. To some extent, that's normal, but certainly not with the case of Mueller Weiss. It's much more pronounced and extreme than that. Now, I have not seen Rafa's feet. I'd love to take a look at them and see what has gone on. I'd love to see some old shots and see how it's progressed over time. So we are guessing as to what's happening with him. Now, one big theory, and I just want to briefly tell you about this, is the stress fracture theory. And this is really what's happened to Rafa. So he had a stress fracture of the navicular bone, and the typical sore spot is right on the top of the foot. We call that the end spot. That's due to overload. And so we know that he did have a stress fracture to his navicular at a young age, and that appears that that has caused then cellular death or bony death, progressive osteonecrosis is the technical term of that navicular bone that has led to this syndrome. We certainly know that this syndrome develops when there's large amount of forces that are not managed well around the foot. And force management there is also then, of course, part of how we solve it. All right, so how do we fix it? Well, it's a progressive disease, so you really want to capture it early and manage it throughout. Now, Rafa's had very famously pain-killing injections into his foot at Roland Garros and the French, and he said at that time he would go to Wimbledon, but he would not have pain-killing injections. And here we are after his fifth setup against Taylor Fritz, and he was very sore and thought about pulling out. In the post-match interview, his family apparently were telling him to pull out, so we don't even know if he's going to get to the next round with Kyrgios. But what can we do to fix it? Well, arch support certainly will help. Pushing up underneath the navicular and supporting it with an orthotic or orthosis device will help. We definitely want to strengthen any weak muscles. So there's lots of muscles that act around the arch. Some big ones up in your calf muscle, the tibialis posterior. You definitely want to take a look at that. I'm sure Rafa's been working on that since that young age. And don't forget, there's also very small muscles in your arch. They do something. They stabilize the foot, and they are a very, very important part of the whole functioning of the foot. So don't forget about these poor little muscles in here as well. We've got some other YouTube videos we've made on how to the best exercises to strengthen those muscles around the feet and the ankles. So make sure you check out some of the other videos. I will have them in the notes section and a link to it below. Importantly, load management. Now, what that means is not doing too much, making sure you have recovery. And this is hard for professional athletes, especially professional tennis players playing on tour the whole time, but it is really important that you factor in that recovery time without overdoing it. Force management. Now, that's a little different. What that means, really, we refer to is making sure that the forces aren't being channeled into the one spot. So we want to spread the forces over the whole foot, over the whole body, and that really makes a difference. And last resort, surgery. And we really hope this doesn't happen to Rafa, because that will not end well for him and his tennis career. You can see this is a last resort. Once the foot has really collapsed and the arch has collapsed and there's progressive deformity and pain, the only real final solution is to fuse the foot, fuse the joints that are affected. And there's some images here of screws and metal wear and plates across the joints around there to try to get the thing to stay still and stay straight. And you really will struggle to play elite level tennis with that sort of operation and metal in your foot. So there you have it. I told you there wasn't too many slides, and hopefully you've stuck with us to the end here. So what are we going to do about Rafa's foot here? This navicular bone, we have to keep it as good as possible. As I said, I'd love to see his feet in real life and see just where they're at. We know this is not going away. This is going to get worse. He, at his press conference, is in doubt to play. I really hope he does, because obviously I'm an Australian. Am I going for Nick Kyrgios or am I going for Rafa? I have to say, despite being an Aussie, I am going for you, Rafa. So I really hope you make it there. I do think he's going to play. He's played with nerve blocks, so not just local anesthetic in the area, but an actual nerve block, which where you inject that into the ankle further up here, and then wherever that nerve supplies, the whole inside of arch of his foot is going to be numb. He's done it before. I know he said he wouldn't do it, but I feel like he's got a good chance of making it through and potentially winning. And given this foot, now you know as well as I know, this foot is getting worse and it won't last forever. And so I don't know how many more years Rafa is going to be playing for. So what's my prediction? I think Rafa's going to I've been wrong before, so I'll probably get it wrong again. I think Rafa's going to struggle through, take some painkillers, maybe have an injection, play against Kyrgios. I do hope he wins, and I do hope he goes all the way through to the final and wins Wimbledon as well. There's my prediction. Stay tuned for more videos. If you want me to cover off on any other foot and ankle related issues, just let me know. Send us an email, info@freestylefeet.com.au, and we will happily record some things to help you.